My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Ouija Origin of Evil. And this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But, anyways, the first Ouija is universally hated by critics and just everyone in general, and I really don't think it's that bad of a movie. Not great, definitely flawed, but nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. But the sequel came out and it got great reviews. People love it. Some highly recognized YouTube critics gave it very high reviews. So I went into this movie the first time expecting to love it, and I didn't really care for it all too much. I thought it was fine enough, but not great. However, plenty of time has passed, and I have become a bigger fan of Mike Flanagan. I like The Haunting of Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Doctor Sleep. So I'm like, you know what? Let's go back and give this movie a try. So I was hoping I'd like it better this time, but honestly, I do not think this movie is anywhere near as good as people say. There's definitely good elements to it, but my goodness. Like, I don't think the first movie is anywhere near as bad as people say, and I don't think this sequel is anywhere near as good as people say. They're a lot closer in quality than people make you believe. But anyways, let's begin talking about the cast. First with Elizabeth Riesel, and I think she does a good job. It's not a great performance, but she does it well enough. Then you've got Annalisa Basso, and I do think she's good here as well. She sells you on the tale in certain moments. And you've got Lulu Wilson, who has a lot more to do. Much more of this film relies on her, and I don't think she pulls it off. I think it's a pretty weak performance. She's trying so hard to be that creepy, evil little girl, and it just never comes across as natural. The constant evil girl look and the constant staring, it just got old for me really fast. The best performance for me though in this entire movie was Henry Thomas, Mr. Elliott himself. I thought he was really good in here, and each scene he was in was made better because he was able to bring the appropriate amount of weight. And Mike Flanagan, like I said, he's a director who I don't love all the movies he's directed, but he's definitely talented, that's for sure. And I do love the old-fashioned look and style he gives this movie to begin with. It does start to lose that old-fashioned feel after the first act. It starts to feel like modern day was clothes from the past, so I wish they implemented the old-fashioned style more, but I do like it when it is present. I love the use of the old music, especially that scene in the end when it's playing through the vents. Love that scene. And I love the music by the Newton Brothers. I love their music for The Haunting of Hill House, and as soon as I heard one note of the music here, I'm like, oh, that's definitely the Newton Brothers, and I like it. I think this is a very well shot movie. There's one scene early on, nothing special happens. It's just the Ouija box is on the table upside down, and as the main character turns it around, the camera turns around with it. And it's just a very simple scene, but I love the way it looks. And I think this movie does have some legitimately really scary moments. Like, I love horror movies, but one big issue with me is that I live in a basement street by myself. So there's some movies I love, like Insidious 1 and 2 and The Conjuring 1 and 2, which truly terrify me, which I would love to watch more often, but I just can't watch them by myself. And most horror movies just don't scare me all too much, but this movie, I was sitting in my basement, sitting alone in the dark, and it was getting to me. When the movie ended, I just, turned the lights immediately, walked around with a flashlight. I had to put something away in the storage area, and then I just stopped. I'm like, no, it can wait till tomorrow. So it definitely stayed with me, I'll give it that. There was some great atmosphere, there was some great tension, like just one scene early on of Alice laying in her bed and her blanket keeps flying off and she goes to pick it up, and there's just this figure in the back of her room. It doesn't draw attention to it, but you definitely see it, and it's really effective. And some of the ending definitely had me on edge, but I've got one huge issue with the scales in this movie. And, well, two huge issues. It's the CGI and the loudness of it. And what I mean by the loudness is when everything is going all chaotic, it's going crazy in the last act. I feel like Mike Flanagan doesn't handle that stuff very well. he handles the quiet, tension, subtle moments a lot better. James Wan does the big, loud moments really well, and it felt like Mike Flanagan was trying to channel some James Wan, but you should just stick to what you're best at. And I also think the CGI in this movie is terrible. There's this one terrifying scene where the one daughter, DZ, whatever her name is, Doris, her neck is hurting, and she's trying to figure out what's wrong. So she picks up the triangle thing, and she can see that there's something behind her only slightly. It keeps moving out of her view, so she goes to a mirror to figure out what it is. And the build up to this scene is so magnificent, but when you see this just hideous, black, CGI disaster of a demon, it just loses me instantly, and like, it had me, and then nothing. That looks stupid. Really? And the CGI in the last act looks really bad too. Like, when the girl's floating and flying and screaming, it's so goofy in a bad way, and whenever she uses those voices when she's talking to the Ouija board, it felt very goofy. And the script. I love lots of what this movie is trying to do about this family of scam artists who are given a chance to do the very thing they've been pretending to do their entire lives, and some dire consequences that come from that, and how it's this family suffering from a loss. And there is some real emotional weight present in some moments, which it carried on throughout this entire movie. I believe the opening scene shouldn't have been the family doing some scamming. I believe it should have established the family with the husband alive, and then we see the husband die, and then it skips ahead a few years. I know it sounds generic, but that way we feel like we know the character a little bit more. So that's what I think they should have done, and I wish they leaned into the backstory of the dad a bit more. And there's just this one scene where the mom's talking to Henry Thomas's character, and his wife is dead, and she's just like, don't you wish that you could say some things to her that you never had the chance to? And he replies, yes. And I'm just like, is that it? Like, he should have said something like, yes, but I didn't, and now I have to live with that. And no messing around with the other side can fix that. Just something along that line of things, where he acknowledges that even if we could reach out to the other side, maybe we shouldn't. We should just accept how things are. And I think a better plot would be if the dad, like the actual dad, talks to Doris, and the mom is incapable of moving on, and she uses her daughter to talk to the husband, but the daughter starts to like suffer as a result or something like that. I would have liked that a lot more. Also, the whole Doris getting possessed thing happens way too early on. It kind of makes the movie feel stagnant for long periods of time, and I just don't feel like the whole little girl getting possessed was really needed. And as soon as they get the Ouija board, Doris instantly starts mumbling some stuff about Marcus, and it's just like, that happened really fast. They should have built to it a bit better. So the pacing as a whole just sucks in this movie. Like, there's this one scene where the boyfriend of Alice gets to the house. It cuts to the mom and Henry Thomas out on a date. Not on a date, out for dinner. My bad. And then it cuts back to the boy in the house, and he has to go because he's been there too long. But it's just like, it feels like you've been there for 5 minutes. And speaking of the boyfriend, he's the biggest idiot ever. Like, he gets threatened by Doris, and I hate that scene. It is trying so desperately hard to make this little girl come across as very threatening. It's just trying so hard. But he comes back, and she's just like, hey, follow me into this dark basement and reach into the walls. And he just does it. Even though she's like staring at him. It's just an absurdly stupid scene. Dumbest boyfriend ever. And I really don't like the note this movie ends on with the two sisters. There's this one conversation early on where she's talking to the mom about how Doris couldn't handle the weight of what happened to the dad. And I feel like it would have been great if we see that Alice wasn't able to handle the weight of what happened to Doris and the mom, and she just snaps and breaks, and that's why she goes to the asylum. So I got issues with the story. I still like lots of what they're trying to do and the themes they're trying to explore. I like lots regarding the characters. I like the Polish letters. That entire scene was very creepy, and Henry Thomas trying to prove the sister is possessed was a great scene. And you think it's not going according to plan, but then it turns out it is. I love the scene when they're talking in the bathroom, in the bedroom, and Alice is just like, wait, they're watching us right now. That scene gives me chills. I love the backstory of this ghost. And once again, just like the first movie, it has really effective, creepy, atmospheric credits. I know that's such a weird positive, but as soon as the credits were rolling, I just stood up and turned on the lights. So yes, the script has potential, even though it's not fully realized. It's a bit of a mess. There's some great scary moments, there's some nice tension. I like the old-fashioned look and sound in specific moments, and it's enough to save it. But Mike Flanagan, if he didn't go so big and loud in certain moments, it would have been more effective if the CGI wasn't there and they relied on practical effects. If the script was polished just a bit and they paced it a bit better and maybe moved things around, I think it could have been all the better. Not a bad movie by any means, but nowhere near as great as people say. So I'm going to go ahead and give Ouija Origin of Evil a 5.5 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Ouija 2? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.